Welcome back, everybody. I'm Sean LaFlock. I'm here with Scotty Hagness. This is Conversations, Fitness, Wellness, and Longevity. Scotty, how goes it, man?
Hey, it's going good, going good.
Is that a DC Brawlers shirt on there right there?
It actually is, in fact, yes.
Nice, man. Taking it to the grid. I like it. We're
Oh,
rocking my brand new swag here, my CrossFit
that's
Garden Beach swag. I got some other things. We've got socks here.
oh
What
man,
else? Look at us. I gotta send you one of these now, Scotty.
you're in the apparel.
We got this
Oh,
sweatshirts. That's
that
probably
is
a
nice.
lot more appropriate for someone like you there, Scott, in the
Say
Great Wide
yeah,
North. But yeah, man. So that's as a business owner now. I'm making the leap of actually creating some apparel so that we can actually sell something, which is always helpful. Getting the brand out there, but also making a little bit of scratch on the side, and also putting it back into the business as well. Right at this point,
yeah,
as we're recording this podcast, we got a long ways to go to break even in terms of the purchase, but every little bit helps, and I want to be able to put the money back into the business and be able to give a great facility, pay the coaches well, all that kind of stuff. So these little things are very helpful. I mean, I'm basically making the
yeah,
same amount of money as I was when I was just coaching here, so nothing really has changed for me financially, but we take on the little bit of the responsibility, we run the ship, that kind of thing. So
hmm
probably a little bit different from you because you
It's a
kind of
great idea and it's one thing we've always been fairly notoriously bad at is having too much apparel. Well, we haven't done hoodies for years. I
yeah.
don't think we've ever done any form of a hat whatsoever. We have, limited shirts. A
Yeah.
lot of times we don't have all the sizes. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah. It's funny. I was actually riding down the street with a hat on, with my sweatshirt on. I was like, I didn't even realize. Oh, this is my brand. You know what I mean? I'm wearing
yeah,
this.
that's kind
Like
of
I'm
cool.
like I,
Yeah.
and then I kind of like was a little bit ashamed. I'm like, well, I'm wearing my brand. Like I hope people like this. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, well, it really doesn't matter if anybody else likes it. It's like, what do you think? Like, if you love the
Yeah.
brand, it'll resonate to everybody else. But
hmm
I think it's pretty cool. But I was just getting done with a client before we got on the call here, and I'm always hesitant to sit down and do nutrition consultations, or I'm more than I was before because I've been burned so many times with nutrition and lifestyle consultations. I mean, lifestyle stuff I like a little bit more. I like a little bit more of the life coaching,
hmm
but you know, for me, I kind of like got so many unsuccessful people with nutrition just because they can't hold themselves personally accountable, and I'm not willing to hold people accountable. I think that's the biggest thing.
mm
Does that ever happen with you, Scott?
Uh, yeah. I mean, they definitely have had people very levels of success through the years. Like a lot of times when trying to get a better angle here with more light, people will, kind of seek you out, fairly invested, but yeah, I've had definitely cases where it's kind of like, they want to make the change, but they don't want to actually do the steps necessary.
Yeah, they want change, but they don't want to change.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Um, yeah, but so anyway, so I'm in this conversation with this person, and they kind of, all right, this is what I'm eating now. It's been a week since I've been doing it, and I'm like, okay, cool. How you feeling? It's like, well, it feels like my clothes are getting a little bit more baggy. I'm like, all right, great. What do you need me for? I'm like, what have you been drinking water? He's like, yeah, I drink water now. I'm still drinking 5 cups of coffee. I'm like, all right, anything in the coffee? They're like, no, just black coffee. I'm like, okay. And obviously, the first thing I think of is, what's this person's sleep like? And
Uh,
then this person's also a smoker. They're probably about 40 pounds overweight. They're stressed with work. I mean, we're talking about maybe 8 out of 10 people in America right now.
hmm
So, for me as a coach, I think that in the past I would have just not even sat down with this person because I'm like, they haven't gotten to the point where they need my help yet. Because I think most of the people that I want to work with are people who are already past the step of they can hold themselves personally accountable. You just got to kind of refine some stuff and that kind of thing.
hmm
But then I started thinking to myself, like, what am I really thinking about the people who can't help themselves yet, and where can I change that in order for me to make changes within other individuals? So I guess the perception that I have is like these people are weak and they don't understand yet. They haven't figured it out yet. But that's very much judgmental from my perspective, and I could actually start bridging the gap between zero awareness and having awareness. So, what I kind of did with this person, I was like, I just want one email a week, and you're going to give me three things in that email. One, you're going to give me how many meals that you actually were good with. So there's 28 meals in the week that you're doing, so 4 meals a day, 7 days a week. There's 28 meals. I want how many meals you were successful with, a ratio. 25 out of 28 is what our goal is. Two, I want to see how many times you worked out this week. So if your goal is 4, I want to see 4, and if it's not, write it down. And then the last thing is, you're trying to get 8 hours of sleep, because this person is notorious for going to bed at 1:30 and waking up at 6:30. And I crossed my fingers as I asked the question, when you go to sleep, do you stay asleep? And they said, I sleep like a rock. I'm like, oh, all right, thank God. Let's just get that bedtime to more toward 10 o'clock, and then we actually can work with something, because I've seen in the past that people who can't sleep, they don't lose weight. It's so hard for those people to lose weight, because the more I'm learning, and actually my buddy Ian said this the other day, lack of sleep is a blood dysregulation problem. So yeah, I mean, that's the symptom.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell is the cause? So is it because you're eating a pint of ice cream before you go to bed? Is it because you're so stressed throughout the day, as soon as you go to sleep, your cortisol's still running and your blood sugar is high and you wake up? Is it because you're metabolically deranged and your adrenals are screwed and you can't actually pump up enough cortisol to actually survive the night, and then you're pumping adrenaline to survive, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a blood dysregulation. Is it because you're getting a stress response from the food you eat before you go to bed, and then all of a sudden you're waking up in the middle of the night there? So there's a lot of ways of thinking about it. Obviously, the better the diagnosis, the easier the solution,
mm-hmm.
right? But it all starts with basic levels of accountability and awareness. So I think in saying this, that's what I hope to do with this person sending me one email a week, and that's it. They're sending me an email. We sat for 30 minutes and we discussed this and that, but I was like, I'm going to help you, because I decided, I'm going to help this person. One email a week, and I'll give you feedback. That's all I want. So what are your thoughts there, Scott?
No, I think, stripping it down to the basics, that's brilliant. I think we need to be ready and able to meet people where they're at, because, I think to some degree, and maybe it was true of the earlier years, we had a fair number of people that were eager to make change, and you tell me to eat this, and not that, and okay, no problem. And they go do it, but that is obviously not where most of the population is and where we can affect the most change. So most people I see are doing things drastically wrong. I mean, there's no sense in worrying about exact macronutrients or, supplements for sure, but it's exactly like this client of yours. I mean, they're not sleeping. You got to get that stuff figured out. What's the chicken or the egg, but find a resolution and give them small enough action points that it doesn't overwhelm them and gets done.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you use for your clients who are kind of in this stage to start creating some changes? I'm thinking about like you said, the smoker, they don't really realize sleep is important. They're eating garbage. Mm-hmm. And then they're asking me, what kind of protein should I use? Yeah. I'm like, dude, there's a meteor coming to hit your world, and you're wondering if you left the stove on, man. Like, look at the meteor and address that first, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what are those little things that you give them there, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, I talk about sleep and those things a lot. So I feel like most people that come in here have kind of heard that message a little bit, and whether they're doing it or not is one thing.
Yeah.
So some folks I'll give a little bit of light reading on there's so much out there now. Sleep when you're dead is gonna bring a lack of productivity, and not to mention dysregulation of the blood and how you handle your food. And so I really try and I guess in nutrition, if I'm talking about nutrition, it really ends up being a talk more about sleep, unless they can assure me that that's already pretty dialed in. And then we can start looking at some of the other pieces. But I really having read stuff on, habit forming and some of the different things like that, I see in it sounds silly, but if you can just take a tiny bit where it's almost so simple you have no excuse not to do it, start to
Mm,
create that habit, then you can grow that habit. Um,
yeah.
and it's whether that's one thing I've used is one thing I try to get people to do is as a joint mobility routine in the morning, and it only
Uh-huh.
even at its end game really should only take like three to 5 minutes. We're not
Yep.
talking a workout here,
Yep.
but it's like I just want you to do one shoulder circle and one hip circle. You can do that while you throw the coffee on the
Yeah.
water on for your coffee or whatever,
Yeah.
and it'll take you 30 seconds. And then after they get a routine of that, then it's a little easier to say, all right, well, maybe a couple, excuse, excuse me, a couple of reps of each, and maybe we'll throw in some spine stuff now.
Yeah. So I think what you're kind of referring to is the idea that like get people into some wins, like get them some momentum.
Exactly. Yep.
Mm.
Totally. And that sleep accountability, I have people email me sleep, or I have a simple Google Doc, and I just want to see how long
Yep.
it is. And yeah, and that's a way where they get used to reporting that.
Yep. Yeah, that's actually great. I mean, I think when you break it down into that simple kind of idea of, get them something in the right direction.
hmm The other thing I use is a little bit of a carrot on the stick. I mean, people want to do the sexy stuff, like what kind of protein they're eating or that sort of thing. Uh, but I basically said you have to earn the right to do this
Yeah.
by doing these other processes. Then you can worry about that sort of stuff. But
Yeah.
if you don't, and
You know.
that sometimes people are like, yeah, okay, I want to do that, so I'm going to
Yeah.
do these other.
You know what one of the problem is though I see is that like people don't know that they don't know or they don't think that they're deserving of it. I think that's one of the biggest hurdles as well is that like the reason why people don't end up doing it is because of some kind of perception problem. Either they're not worthy of it or that they're self-sabotaging. So they get a week in or 2 weeks in, they start seeing results, and then it's all of a sudden they have one little blip, and then that is evidence for them that they're not deserving of whatever they're doing, and then they completely revert to what they're doing before. So I think it's
Mm-hmm.
very important to address, and I did this in the conversation. That's why I said 25 of 28 meals successful, because you're going to have a meal where you screw up, and I want you to love and indulge that meal and enjoy it to the best of your ability. And then when the meal is over, that's it. You don't judge yourself for it. You enjoyed it. You gave yourself something, whether it was because you were out with a client, whether it was because you were just stressed out that day and just needed that one meal. But leave it there. Don't judge it. Don't bring it with you, because all that's going to do is make the decisions you make from then on out from a place of I'm a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like I'm a
Yeah,
piece of
no,
shit.
really good
Look,
point. Yeah,
that's what I did. I screwed up, and of course I would screw up
yeah,
because I'm a shithead. And all that's going to
yeah,
do is make you want to do more of that destructive behavior,
exactly.
because by default, if you're doing that behavior, you're not a person who is trying to prove. You're a person who is already proven that you want to fail, and now you're just following through with those actions. So
You're
like,
just yeah.
think of it on the other side of the spectrum. There's a person who like will mess up a lift and then they'll practice it 1,000 times to get it right.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the people that you're sitting down with the first time. Those,
No,
I'm not saying that that is correct. I think obviously
right.
that's just a higher level. So that's like
Mm-hmm.
the obsessiveness is a higher level than like lack of empathy and lack of self esteem. There's that needs to get to this level before you even get to the next level, and hopefully you have enough awareness that you don't even have to go to this level. You can just transcend to the level of like, I eat what I want because I love myself, or I eat this way because I love myself and I know it's what's best for my body, rather than saying I eat this way because I hate my body.
Yeah.
And then you have to go ahead and tackle that beast to say that your body is exactly where it needs to be. But you'll never see somebody who says, like, I hate the way I look, and then not follow through with like destructive behaviors in that side of the spectrum. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. That's a whole big animal there, can of worms or whatever, and it's
Yep.
very prevalent.
Yep. And again, it's not necessarily our job to psychoanalyze people, but I think you have to have
Right.
basic kind of awareness of how people tick and why that person isn't following through with the things that you want them to follow through with. Like, how hard is it to write one email a week and send it your way? How hard is it
Mm-hmm.
to only drink water? How hard is it to just set a timer for 15 minutes and sit there 3 times a week? Don't move, just let your thoughts be, whatever. But again, like, you don't know that you don't know, and you don't know if when you're from the inside looking out, because this is where your change actually occurs. But this here is safe for most people. This here actually, obviously it's an illusion of safety, but it's safety. But the problem is that you can't get this from inside here, so you're actually going to have to let this crumble a little bit, be vulnerable, and then get out there to get that thing. But then when you look back and realize this thing never existed, this is something in your mind that created that illusion of safety. There was never safety to begin with. It's just
Mm-hmm.
you thought that you having extra weight on your body was normal. You thought that you weren't worthy of looking a certain way or working out often, or struggling through certain things, because you thought that if you struggle, that means you're a weak person or something like that. So again, I think it's a very uh, uh, common discussion that we have to have with people, as long as you're ready to have it. And I think for me personally, I need to have more of these conversations, because I would love to heal and to work on the areas of myself as a coach that aren't comfortable with those conversations. Like, what about me looks at a person and says, I don't want to help them? You know what I mean? Like, how about you
Mm-hmm.
ask if they need help, and then they can give you a response back, rather than me assuming that this person doesn't want to be helped,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yep. Nope. Absolutely. That's a good point.
And as I was in San Francisco, I had a little bit of a meditation session where I kind of came up with something. And it was, uh, don't don't assume that, or assuming someone is going to be empathetic toward themselves or others, or excuse me, it's um, asking somebody to be empathetic toward themselves or others when their identity is based upon lack of empathy toward themselves as others is actually a ridiculous thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
so so expecting that person to call you when you know that it is their identity not to call you is insanity, right?
Uh-huh.
Expecting a person who doesn't have empathy for themselves, doesn't have self-esteem, and expecting them to eat right, food log, get to sleep at a certain time. Like, what are you, nuts? There's no way they're going to do that, because that's their identity. Who they think they are is all of those things that you just said don't do. So that scares the shit out of people, regardless of the activities that you're asking them to do. If whatever you're asking them to do is against their identity and who their perception and their story of who they are, you're pretty much going to guarantee they're not going to do those things, unless you address the fact that, like, this is going to be uncomfortable, it's going to be scary, but on the other side of it is freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think
Makes
that's
total
I
sense.
think that's what I said. I don't know. I
Yeah.
make shit up
Pretty
all the
close.
time.
Yeah. Well, good job on that if you did, but that's
But yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I
No,
mean,
yeah. You can't really. Success is going to be almost accidental if you have someone with that kind of a mindset,
yep,
you know.
that's a good point. It is accidental, and I mean, you can go even further than just working with clients. I mean, look at society today. Like, politicians is a perfect example, without getting overly, secular here.
Hmm.
How are you supposed to expect empathy or sympathy from a politician when by default they can't have that? How are you what do you You're crazy. You're the one who's actually expecting something. You're expecting the cow to bark, the dog to meow, and the cat to moo. Like, why would you expect that of that person? So I think obviously having realistic expectations of what reality can actually give to you is important. So that means having uncomfortable conversations with people and saying to them, hey, I know you're not really capable of this yet, because you're basing all of your decisions off of what you've done before. But that's before. you're
Mhm.
allowed to let go of that shit and take a step forward into something that you've never done before and fail forward because you're gonna mess up the first two times. Be sucking
Yeah.
at something is the first step at actually being kind of good at
Mhm. Yeah, you have to suck before you get good.
it.
There's really no way around that,
I
right?
mean, let me ask you this, Scott. How long did it take you to hit your first trick on your bike when you were younger? How many times did you fall
Yeah.
down?
Oh, yeah. I took every single one every year, all through the
I mean, even
years.
now.
Always takes a long time. Oh, yeah. I'm 400 tries into this new thing over the last few weeks, and I'm sure I've got a number of other hundreds in front of me, and it just
Yeah,
is what it is. But there's no way to achieve it without all those failures.
absolutely.
You know,
Yeah, I think that's. I
and
think
anything, nobody lifts a really heavy weight first go either. Nobody, and so
yeah,
on, right? It
there has to
takes,
be
yeah,
struggle, right? There has to be a
you
bit
have
of
to
struggle.
struggle.
But
That's the,
but I think again, what our job as not only coaches but also mentors and as life coaches as well is letting people know that the struggle is not bad. Like we put the only it's just struggle. It's just you messing up. It's you not doing it correctly. We attach a positive or negative to it. So we
Mhm.
say that's not good that I failed. Whereas if you're like, well, it is what it is. What can I get out of this? What can I learn from this? Every time you do fall over, you go, oh, I didn't do this right. Now I can take a step
Mhm.
forward in my life because I guarantee you have to fail a bunch of times in order for you to learn the lessons that you need to learn in order for you to actually progress to the point where you thought you'd never be.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the more times you fail is generally actually the better you're going to be.
Yeah.
And I mean that's exactly what we do, right? Nobody hands us a manual on learning how to crawl or walk.
Yep.
We just keep trying and failing, and eventually we figure it out.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think when we're younger, we have a lot less of pressure and expectation on us, and allows us to fail a lot more times because it's play. And we've kind of
Yeah.
talked about that before. This concept of allowing yourself to fail and have fun. Failure with
Mm-hmm.
fun is play, I suppose, in some ways. And obviously
Yeah.
there's successes here and there. But even once you're successful with something, then you have to, push the envelope again,
Mm-hmm.
rub up against the edge of your comfort zone, and then start falling forward from there again and again and again. And then all of a sudden you fall across the finish line. You're like, oh, I did it. That's it.
Yeah.
And progressively doing that will move you forward. But even that becomes something where you get to a finite point of like, well, it's impossible for me to improve in this area anymore. And it's more of, in some senses, just being content with where you are. And then in some ways, passing on that knowledge to others. And I think that's where it goes from being the mentee to being the mentor, because I think that is where the value is actually paying it forward and giving selflessly and serving others.
Yeah.
There's only so long you can serve yourself before you get to the ceiling, and then you say, I got to give something to somebody else before I actually feel anything again.
Yeah.
So,
Totally.
and not to mention, I think that's a great part about this in general, because, in coaching in general, is that, we're athletes first. And then once you get to a point, it's important along the way, you are teaching people underneath you. So I think this is something that they do in like the 12-step program, is that like you're always in contact with people who are less days sober than you and more days sober than you, because you follow the path of those who came before you, and then underneath you, you can go ahead and share with those who have not walked the path yet, the ability to say, hey, I've been there. Hey, this is my advice. And again, that allows you to find value in everything that you do. Have you ever had, I mean, I will say this for us, obviously I've learned a shitload from you, from coaching and that kind of stuff. Have you ever had a mentee when it came to riding?
Not really. Um, it's such kind of a solo pursuit in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. And there's places you could have lived and times, where I maybe potentially could have, but around here, then not really so much so.
Uh-huh.
There was sort of a guy early on that was really creative and really good in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And about the time that I was coming up and able to actually travel up here to Portland where he lived was right about when he kind of moved on to other things. He was
Uh-huh.
one of the ones that didn't stick with it as kind of a lifetime thing.
Yep.
So outside of that, no.
And did you have a mentor?
Oh, I would no. I would say like apparently I need a cup of coffee.
No, I was saying
That
I
was
said
that was
mentee.
mentor. Yeah, it was
Okay.
that.
Did you
I
have a
was thinking.
Did you
I
ever
have.
have somebody underneath you that you
I
kind of
have
taught?
had some.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yes, definitely. Yeah, a few over the years, really,
Huh.
and even to some degree nowadays. Everyone that rides is a little older, but I'm
Yep.
typically, my I have a larger vocabulary of things that I do
Yep.
than many. So I may, people are learning things. I usually can try and help out. Plus, I mean, even if I don't know how to do that particular move, I understand movement from a coaching perspective and
Yep.
things. So,
Yep.
so I have always, I think it comes from the days that I produced videos of BMX because a big part of that wasn't just filming and getting a good shot. It was literally, I basically became a coach to a lot of people because if I
Uh-huh.
if I knew they were capable of putting this and this together into this new never before been done thing,
Yep.
I would sometimes give them the idea, push them to do it,
Uh-huh.
and keep encouraging them until they eventually did it. And so
Yeah.
it was basically I still do that just for.
Isn't that such a strange thing about like, because I don't like to push people anymore, it seems. Like, I don't like to get, I don't know what that is. Like, I mean, I will push certain people like past where they think they are, but in terms of newbies, I'm just a lot more tentative than I ever was before in trying to push people out of their comfort zone or motivating as much because, I guess maybe I've gotten to a point where I'm like, well, it's not about the motivation. It's like it's an intrinsic thing. I think the
Yeah.
motivation is what actually gets you out of your own head and realizes, like, I'll give you an example is a 30-day weight loss challenge. I've always hated
Mm-hmm.
30-day weight loss challenges, but they're successful. And I think the reason why they're successful is because it gives people the opportunity to go outside of what they've expected of themselves and actually do something that they've never done before. And theoretically, that motivation can allow them to understand with the proper coaching and with the proper awareness training that ability was in them within them all along. That just unlocked it. You don't need the motivation to actually do those things. You just needed to show yourself that you can do it, and now you can do it over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
but
And I,
but I think you gotta have both, right?
yeah. I'd agree. I don't push newer people like I would have, in earlier years. For one, I don't think that them going all out is necessarily
Yeah,
a beneficial thing yet.
yeah,
They're not really the point they need to be doing that.
yep,
I would tend to reserve it more for people I know well, have been around a while. I know
yep,
what their physical capabilities are.
yep. Yeah, I'll give you
And
an yeah. Go ahead.
I would say, and I kind of try to see, the way I would approach it is completely different for everyone based on how I feel they respond, and
Yeah,
yeah, I read it each person pretty
yeah,
best I
but
can.
yeah, almost individually. It's because like we have this co-ed partner throwdown going on in our gym, and I was hesitant to like push people to do it. For one thing, I don't know. Like I guess I judge myself on being overbearing or telling people what to do. Like I don't want to tell somebody what to do. I want them to kind of be curious about it. But the thing is again, like if someone's curious about it and they come to me, I know that they've started that there's a thought in their head and they said,
Mm-hmm.
this might be for me. Can you give me more information about it? And then that's kind of how the ball rolls a little bit.
Yeah.
Whereas if like I don't want to force somebody to do something that they don't know that they may be doing just because out of pressure or because of not wanting to be the odd person out. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but you know
Yeah.
what? That being said, again, maybe they don't know that they don't know don't want to do it. You know what I mean? So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, man. Like it's one of those things that I guess it's such a there's no wrong answer. It's just a matter of what you do out of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
cool. Well, we're coming
Cool.
up on that half-hour mark there, Scotty. You got anything else for today?
Yeah. That's a good one. I like
Cool.
it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Sean LaFlock. You can get me at Sean at CrossFitDiaryBeach.com.
I'm Scott Hagness. You can get me at scott@crossfitportland.com.
Beautiful. All right, Scotty. I'll talk to you next week.
All right. Talk to you next week.
Later, dude.